we have another special guest on today, Moms Who HYROX, Natalie. What's going on?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah, we're super excited to get you on. You've been doing some really cool stuff on your Instagram recently, and definitely tapping into a population that I think is really cool. And I think from talking to some of the guys over at Perform Better and talking to people in the industry, like I think this is what's going to be like the future of High Rocks is
Mm.
not your elite athletes per se, but like your everyday people that are getting fitter and fitter and fitter and wanting a reason to challenge themselves and a race to challenge themselves. So, we really think you're kind of spearheading this, which is really cool, and you're doing some cool stuff, and we're loving the post. So
Thank
nice work.
you. Yeah, that's that. Thank you for saying that. And the funny part is I started this account, the Moms Who High Rocks account, with like very little thought. I'd love to like be able to tell you it was like some strategic thing, but I participated in the Boston High Rocks, and it was my second one, and I just was like, oh, I wonder if there's a community for moms who do high rocks, and I just kind of didn't find one, and I was like, oh, well, I'll make one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super cool. It started super organic. You like this these. If I can't find my group, I'm gonna make it, and then blossom from there. So that's cool.
Yeah.
How did you like Boston? I was at
Oh, I
Boston as well.
loved it.
High Rocks. That was a fun event, right?
It was so fun. I'm hoping it happens again. Um, you
Cool.
know, HYROX hasn't really announced any races past like May, so I'm assuming it's going to happen again, probably around like the same time.
For
But it'll be bigger and better than it was last year, I'm sure. But it was great, great event. Loved having it in my backyard because my whole family was able to come and support, which was really special. And my kids are like, got to see me do the race, and so now they're downstairs and they're trying to do the sled push and do the burpees and all this kind of stuff. So it was really cool.
That's so awesome. How old are your kids?
They are 5 and 7.
Very cool. So curious about this. So were they able to get down into like the warm up areas with the at the event?
They were in the spectator area.
Oh, spectator. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. Um, so the way Boston had been set up, which was like if you wanted to go like push like the sled around, like you could like before the event. So they were able to get into and kind of participate and like see that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, they totally were able to see the whole thing. They followed me around to all the different stations, and I don't believe that they went into the warm up area at all, but because
Sure,
I was
sure.
kind of I was hands off at that point. I was like, it's dad's in charge for the next couple hours.
See you guys.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's cool. I know you mentioned Boston is your backyard. Where are you located?
Yeah, I'm just in the Boston suburbs.
Cool, cool.
Yep,
Okay,
about 20 minutes, 30 minutes away. So
I'm not far from you. I'm in Rhode Island, so we're not far.
no.
So we like to start these off with some rapid fire questions. So just icebreakers to get things going. So first one I like to ask people is what is their favorite coffee shop in the area?
So I don't really go to coffee shops.
Mhm.
Funny, and it's
Uh,
my kitchen is my favorite coffee shop right
love
now.
that.
Living
Love
in the
that.
suburbs, like my town is a little rural. We don't have a coffee shop. It's just not really like practical. I guess if I had to choose one place that I leave outside of my house, and it's so generic, but it would be Dunkin' Donuts.
Love that.
I'm a sucker for a large cold brew. Can't any time of year basically you'll find
Love
me with
that.
one.
New England runs on Dunkin'.
Yeah,
Cold brew year round. Love that.
100%.
Um, and how about this one? So next rapid fire, we got favorite go-to home breakfast.
Mm.
And you can answer this as more of like a guilty pleasure, like, or you can answer more of like a hey, this is what I ate for like training.
Well, so okay, I'll do both. Right now, I'm really into oatmeal with blueberries. That's like my everyday, of the week before I work out kind of breakfast.
Nice.
But I think my guilty pleasure breakfast, and or anybody who's in the Boston suburbs area will know what this is. It's a bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel from Volante Farms. It's the
Ooh,
best. There's something going on with their bacon. I don't know what it is, but it's absolutely delicious. And so every once in a while, I'll just wake up and I'll say, I need that breakfast sandwich today.
totally. Oh, that's so awesome. That sounds delicious. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So here's a kind of a fitness related question, or maybe not, but who are some people in the space right now that you like on Instagram or social media that you're following? Like, oh, I like this. I like what they're doing.
Yeah. Again, I have two. So one, Lauren Weeks, is obviously, elite, top of the top. I love that she's a mom too, and that her family comes to support her at some of the races that she goes to. She'll post on Instagram, um, you know, her daughter trying out the rower or something, the erg or something like that. So it's really cute and fun to follow her and root for her as she competes in the high level, HYROX competitions. And then I also really like Dominique Sotil. She's Let's Dominate on Instagram. She's not a mom, but she is a HYROX athlete. And specifically, the reason why I love to follow her is because she emphasizes that she didn't start out as like elite, as getting 1 hour doubles HYROX times. Her first HYROX, she was like over an hour and 30 minutes, and she just put in the hard work and found something that she loved and just worked really hard to get better and better at it. And I think that's really inspiring for anybody else who's trying out, who's like me, and maybe considers themselves kind of more of like an everyday athlete. We're middle of the pack, middle of that bell curve, just to show that if you put in the hard work that you can definitely improve.
Totally. That's part of the reason I love High Rocks, and I love these type of races is you have a number and you're like, all right, I have exactly the breakdown of what I need to work on, and I can really easily see some results with it if I just put the training in.
Absolutely.
It's that. It's really cool. That's great. Those are great answers. Are you a podcast listener?
I am, but I don't really listen to, I guess I don't really probably listen to the podcast that you would expect me to listen to.
Fair, yeah.
My favorite podcast is called the Oversharing Podcast, and it's like hosted by two sisters. One's a therapist, one's just like a, podcast advice host. And it's just, it's just fun. I like to listen to lighthearted stuff.
Yeah, no, totally. Sometimes you need that just to chill, just to zone out. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Do you have any favorite books? Could be something recent you liked, or just just in general.
Yeah. So the funny part about that is I used to read a lot, but ever since becoming a parent, my reading has gone downhill, and it's actually one of my New Year's like goals is to read this year. So I might have to get back to you on an exact book, but I would say in general, for a genre, I love a good thriller, like anything that has a murder in it or some sort of murder mystery is typically my jam.
Nice. Like some Stephen King type stuff, or
yeah, that stuff's good, or psychological thriller kind of like stuff. Yeah.
Love that. You mentioned something there too, and I want to dive into this, but I want to make sure I don't miss it. So I want to ask you about it now. With mom life, you said your kids are 5 and 7. Did I remember that correctly?
Yep.
How has it been? And we'll get into kind of like how you got into fitness, but like time management. Because I know you said like I don't have a lot of time to read right now, but how does like fitness, like time management, how have you been able to balance that? Because I know for parents or people in general, like that's one of the biggest things they get hung up on is like, all right, how do I have time?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing for me is I treat it like it's an obligation, like it's a meeting. I put it on my calendar, I block off the time of my day, and I treat it as like I would any other appointment or work meeting. And that kind of helps me, one, build it into my schedule so that I can make sure that I have time for it, and two, like stick to it. Because it's kind of like if I don't do it now, then I'm not going to do it because I've got, things going on every other hour of the day. So that's kind of like my biggest hack. And I do tell that to a lot of people who say that to me, like, oh, I just don't have the time, blah, blah, blah. And I just say, put it on your calendar. Like, you get a maybe lunch break, even if it's only a 30-minute lunch break. Put it on your calendar, like dedicate that time to yourself to get in a sweat in. It doesn't need to be like some crazy 2-hour session, but.
Totally. I love that. I think that's a great technique for people because especially if you're someone who adheres to like a schedule like that, which most people are, like if it's on the schedule, you're not going to typically book anything at that time. You'll have that block. Like, yeah. I like that a lot. I think that's a really good strategy.
Yeah. And that's like really helpful for family life too. Like, not just working around work, because my kids are at school, for most of the day. So that is like part of the reason why I'm able to fit it in. But on the weekends and stuff too, when I was training for, half marathons, I would just put it on the calendar and I'd say to my husband, okay, these are the hours that I'm going to go for my long run this weekend, so that, everybody can plan and make sure that, everybody's happy and, and prepared for me to leave the house for 2 hours.
Because I find that too, like on the flip side, like if I'm like, oh, I got a bunch of things to do today, like
Mhm.
whenever when I have the time, I'll fit it in, I'll figure it in, and then sometimes the entire day goes by, I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to fit it in.
Yeah. Well, and I hate that feeling too, of feeling like I've got to do it. I've got to do it. I've got to do it. Like, and then so it's just like, if okay, I'm working out at 12 a.m. Or 12 p.m. today during my lunch break. It's a non-negotiable. You just go do it and
Yep,
it's off your mind.
That's great. I wanted to make sure I touched on that, because if I forgot to ask about that, I'm so upset.
Yeah.
Next,
It's a struggle. It's definitely a struggle for
yeah,
parents. So I'm not trying, I don't want to minimize it at all. It's
totally.
Mhm.
One more rapid fire question for you, which is one I like. Do you have anywhere you traveled recently, or any travel coming up on your docket for this year?
Yeah, so I mean, I do have a vacation planned with my family to Aruba, which will be really fun to get away from the winter. But as far as places I'd like to go, I really like to go to Ireland. I've never been there. So I'm actually hoping maybe they announce a HYROX there, and I can do my first international HYROX and then kind of like have a vacation afterwards.
That's so cool. That's a
Yeah, I
great.
think that'd
I
be
mean,
neat.
that's you might as well use that as like, hey, fitness travel related. Like,
Yeah,
here's an excuse to go somewhere. That would be really cool. That
yeah.
would be cool. Have they had them in Ireland before?
They have, yeah. I think last year, towards the second half of the year, I think they had one in Galway, if I'm
Mm,
remembering correctly. So,
totally. That's very cool. I do the same thing with some of the triathlon races.
mm.
I'm looking at the for the Ironman circuits. I'm like, where, and they do them all over the world too. So it's kind of easy. It's like, who do I want to go to Paris this year? It's like,
Yeah, you might as well, if you're going to travel for it, you might as well make it somewhere fun because,
totally.
like, I don't want to I want to do multiple races this year, I don't want to just do like Boston. So, you have to by default kind of look, all right, where else can I go where it makes sense? And you want to go somewhere fun, like, no offense, like no one wants to go to like New Jersey, but
True.
people who live in New Jersey, they're like, fine, yeah, this is cool. But like,
Right.
if you're going to travel, make it a more fun destination.
Totally.
Mhm.
No, I get that. That's another cool benefit of it being like a worldwide race series. It's just like, all
Yeah.
right, we can go explore. That's cool.
Mhm.
All right, so to kind of get into your history a little bit, tell us maybe your background in athletics, or like how you got into fitness in the first place.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm probably a little bit different than the people that you typically interview on this podcast because, like you said at the beginning, like I'm not an elite athlete. I'm not a pro. I'm not even a fitness professional. I'm not a trainer. I'm not anything. I just am what I call like an everyday athlete. Just like a regular person who wanted to get in better shape and kind of like, found this cool thing that I love that gets me to challenge myself and push myself. So growing up, I played sports, but like never really like got into anything specific. And then, after having kids, I had two kids, they're 2 years apart, as we've mentioned, just felt like so sick of feeling out of shape and like I didn't know my body anymore. Women's bodies change a lot during pregnancy, and it takes a lot to like come back from that, like to rebuild muscle and rebuild endurance and things like that. And parenting also little kids takes up so much of your time, like we were talking about before. Like when you have a newborn and a 2-year-old, that's like taking up so much of your time. So I got to a point when my son was about 1 where I was just like, all right, I think it was actually even one of my New Year's resolutions. I was like, this year I am going to like dedicate to like putting my fitness as a priority, to making it a priority, not just an afterthought. And that's kind of like where I came up with the calendar thing. And I'm like, I'm going to schedule it. I'm going to treat it like it's not not something that I could do, but something that I need to do. And then I started going to Orange Theory because I've always really I had always really shied away from lifting like weights of any sort. But I was seeing, more content about the importance of, lifting weights for women, especially as we, get older and approach 40, as well as just how running was really like one of the best ways to get fit overall, and improve, your cardiovascular health. So I got into Orange Theory, really liked it. The first class absolutely kicked my ass, but then it was like one of those things that I was like, all right, I want to keep going back. I want to keep getting better. And I did. I kept getting better and better. I was like, I never thought that I was a runner. I used to actually say, like, I hate running. Like, I'm not meant for running. And then all of a sudden I was like pretty good at running. And I was like, wow, okay, I could do this. So then I trained for a half marathon, enjoyed that, did a couple more, and then got kind of bored of just running. And then that's kind of when I started to see HYROX come, across my feed on Instagram. And I had never heard of it before. I had started going to a personal trainer at that point to improve upon my weightlifting, because I kind of got to the point where I was like, all right, I want to lift heavier weights, but I want to do this in a way where I'm not going to hurt myself and where I'm like concentrating on the things I need to concentrate. And so I told my personal trainer about it. His name is Isaac. He's the owner of strength-based training here in Massachusetts. He had never heard of it either. And then I just signed up for New York 2025. And we were like, all right, let's see how this goes. And then that, gets us to where we are today. So honestly, I'm really a beginner at a lot of these things. Like I started running probably 3 years ago, like on a consistent basis. I started weightlifting a little over a year ago. I started training for my first HYROX almost a year ago. So I'm very much still a beginner, kind of in like the whole world of all this stuff. But it's fun to kind of see where it could take me. And then with the Instagram, as I mentioned, I started on a whim. That's been really, really fun because it's allowed me to connect with so many other, people who have the same hobby, other moms, like really across the world who have the same hobby. And, I'm just excited to keep pushing forward from here.
That's so awesome. I love how the journey started from, like, I feel like a lot of people are in the same boat as far as like they're trying out some fitness classes. I've done Orange Theory. I still do it. I love it. I think they're great
Yeah.
workouts. And I feel like that also is like intro to, like, because HYROX is so much running. Like
Right.
intro to, oh, running it's doable. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes it sucks, but like you can see the progress with it, and you're like, oh, that's
Yeah.
what gets you hooked.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
whenever people ask me, sometimes, women will ask me on Instagram, like, oh, how do you get started? Like, I just don't even know where to begin, because there is like so much information out there. It's endless. You could Google anything and come up with, 10 different workouts for like, or there's personal trainers all over all over Instagram, different creators. It's hard to know like what is the right thing to pick. So I always tell people to dip their toe into it by taking a group fitness class. I was like, that's easy. There's probably one in your area. Just give it a try and see what you think. And if you like it, keep showing up. And then when you do start to see the progress, like you said, that's when it becomes like addicting. You're like, oh, okay, I want to do more. I want to get better. Like, this isn't so hard anymore. Like, and you start to get that belief in yourself.
absolutely, yeah. It's like once you see the progress, you're like, addicted is not the right word, but you get motivated. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
let's keep going. Let's keep going.
absolutely. Yeah.
The other piece of that pie, or the other piece of that puzzle, is the nutrition part. Um,
Mm.
and I know you had shouted out a couple people, a guy, Alma knows food,
Yep.
a girl, Alma knows food on your Instagram a few times.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about that. Tell me what's your strategy with that.
Yeah, so Alma's actually a nutrition coaching app. It's a
Oh,
company that I'm working with. Yeah, I know. Alma sounds like a girl's name for sure. I don't 100%, I don't really know the history behind the name. But
sure.
I would say that for me, nutrition for performance is something that's very new to me. Like I always kind of just like thought food was food, calories are calories. And now that I'm getting more into, fitness and wanting to improve my fitness, I'm starting to understand what a big part nutrition plays in that, and making sure that you're eating the right balance of food to both fuel your workouts and to help you recover from those really hard days, and prevent injury as well. Making sure you're eating enough and eating the proper foods to keep your body healthy, as you're putting it through all of this, is super important. So, I do use the app to help me kind of understand what the balance of what my macros are that I need on a given day, depending on what type of, session I have planned. But yeah, like I said, I think just in general, emphasize that's one of my strategies for this training block is emphasizing nutrition for performance and making sure I'm kind of like paying attention to getting the right nutrients, and not in a calorie counting way though, more in a like in a nutrients way.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's cool. I think that's a big switch that a lot of people make too, going from
Mhm.
like diet culture, losing weight to, oh, I'm eating this food because it makes me perform better in my workout. Like it's such a mental switch, and it's a really cool switch because it becomes more enjoyable, I feel like.
Yeah, it's funny too because it's like, I feel like diet culture when I was a teenager, the trendy thing was to, oh, you like girls want to lose a few pounds, they cut out all carbs. Just I'm
Yeah.
not eating any carbs. I'm not eating any bread. But then when I started working with Isaac, my trainer, and he's telling me, you need to be eating all these carbs to fuel your workouts. I like, what are you talking about? Like
Yeah. Yeah. You're like,
Like, I'm sorry, this is like completely different than what I've heard my whole life. And you know what? I feel like a lot of women who didn't maybe like, who weren't an athlete growing up probably, were fed
right.
that same information. So it is a mindset shift. But and it kind of takes a little while to get over kind of that like fear of carbs like that I think a lot of women have. But once you can see the benefits and see that it actually does help with your recovery and your performance, then you're like, it finally clicks. You're like, okay, all right, I'm finally willing to accept the advice.
Totally. Totally. No, it makes sense. Um, Tell me a little bit about another big thing is people get worried when they're starting to push performance or they're working out hard. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to get injured." Uh,
Mm.
Tell me a little bit about like I know you had mentioned this a couple times on your Instagram, like, oh, like how have you overcome injuries in the past, or how do you prevent yourself from getting injured, or how
Yeah.
do you stay healthy?
Yeah, well, so as I said, I'm still like a beginner at a lot of this, so I've definitely like made mistakes that I think have led to me getting injured. And I think one of those is overtraining. And so what I'm really committing to this training block is keeping the easy days very easy and the hard days hard. I think I always kind of had this mentality that like more and more and more and more, like you have to go hard all the time. And that leads to overuse, overtraining, leads to injuries. And so this time around, I'm making sure that I keep those easy days super easy and follow the plan. As I mentioned a couple times, I'm working with a personal trainer, and so he helped me build a custom plan for this training block based on what my goals are for the next HYROX I'm doing, and for the ones thereafter. Sticking to the plan, not going off book because I feel like I'm having a good day, and trusting the process, I think are the big things for me. But I do also think that sometimes, when you get injured, as long as it's not super serious, it can be kind of an opportunity to understand, like, okay, where are your weaknesses and where do I need to focus on improving? So for me, for example, after the HYROX in Boston, I injured my lower left leg and ankle kind of area. And I think it was just from overuse. I was overtraining. I was doing too much, too fast. And it took like probably like 2 months to really like get back to be pain free, but now I realize like, okay, my ankles are a weak area for me, and as a runner I need to, like, if I'm going to be doing all this running, I need to train those muscles. And I'm like, who trains their ankles? Like I never like thought, like, I'm like, who does this? But it's a weak area for me, so I have to put in the work to like strengthen that up, and it'll just benefit me overall moving forward.
Yeah, I feel like as a physical therapist background, I feel like that's so common where like what two things you said. The first thing you said was like let the easy days be easy. I
Mhm.
feel like the tendency, at least from what I've seen, when people first start to get into running, when they first are doing running workouts and everything, they feel like every single workout they need to be like beat red in the face, like dying, out of breath, gasping for air at the end of each run, which is
Mhm.
not the case at all.
Yeah.
Not the
Mhm.
case at all. So I think that's a great point. Is like let the easy days be easy. When the program is ready for hard days, let the hard days, because they're both important. Both
Mhm.
important. And the other
Yep.
piece you said there too is like just staying on top of the like the accessory like work.
Yeah.
Like there's certain drills that are good for runners, there's certain drills that are good for lifters, like figuring out those drills that are helpful. So that's really
Right.
good insight. That's really good insight.
Right. I was saying the other day to my husband, because I was, doing some accessory work at the training gym. He has me doing plyometrics, before every session now as well. And I
Nice.
had a really hard like HYROX session on Friday. And so Sunday rolls around and I'm like, I'm more sore from my accessory work that I did on Thursday than from the HYROX session I had on Friday.
That's awesome. Hey, you got good work and makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, all right, so I have just a couple more questions for you, and then
Awesome.
I know we're being efficient today. Uh, so you're a couple other big things. What is a common roadblock either for you or for people? And I know we talked about time management already, but it could be
Mm.
something similar to that or that that gets in the way of people's success, whether it's in high rocks or fitness. What's something you keep seeing as a repetitive theme, like and how to overcome it too, if you have any tips to overcome it.
Yeah, I mean, I think just overall, I think a lot of people quit before they even try. Um, I guess this is more just in general, but a lot of people I will hear say, "Oh, I could never do that," or like, "I don't have the time for that," or like they kind of like count themselves out before they even really give themselves a shot. And if I did that, I wouldn't be doing any of this because, like I said, I used to literally say like, "Ew, I hate running. I'm not a runner." But then I just gave it a try, and like it's completely like running has led into all these things that completely changed my life from where I was like 4 or 5 years ago. So, I would say like don't count yourself out before you even give it a try. And what works for one person isn't going to work for everybody. I'm not saying like everybody needs to go out and train for a high rocks, but like find something that you really love and enjoy. If it takes trying a lot of things, then that's what it takes. But um don't let your I guess own fears or worries that you're not going to be like good at it or you're not going to be able to do it at the level that maybe you see on Instagram, get in the way of getting out there and giving things a shot.
I love that. That's such good advice on two things. Like find something that you love.
Hmm.
You're gonna be more willing to do it, and
Yep.
then not don't say no to things just because they're scary. I think
Right.
it's you try it and see how you do. So I like that was just really good advice.
Mhm.
Um, I asked the same question kind of similarly, but and what have you found to kind of be some of the biggest, like I call them keystone
Mm.
habits or tendencies or keys for success, either in your fitness journey or people around you that you've seen, like, hey, like this person does these things really well, and it seems to give them a lot of success. So, some habits or tendencies.
um I would say not letting age get in the way of your fitness goals. Um, I think like some people think this goes back to kind of what my answer was in the previous question. Some people may think, oh, I'm too old to do that. I'm too old to try that. I mean, age is just a number. Like I'm in my mid 30s now. I'm in way better shape than I ever was in my 20s. Like I'm doing more things, like lifting heavier weights, doing, running faster, doing more things than I ever thought I would be able to in my 20s. And so it kind of just goes back to my previous answer, like don't count yourself out, just give things a shot. Don't let age get in the way. Of course, everybody needs to do things safely. But I think I think as I'm approaching like, I'm in my mid 30s, like as I'm thinking towards like being in my 40s, like I'm not thinking that of that as a time to slow down at all. I'm thinking of how can I keep this momentum going so that my the second half of my life is just as exciting and I can move around just as well as the first half.
It is so crazy how it's like people just expect, like, oh, like in my 30s and 40s I'm not going to be as fit as I was like in my late teens and 20s, but that
Yeah.
totally doesn't need to be the case, and a lot of times it isn't the case. So
Yeah.
it is so cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Do you have something and off the top of your head? So any maybe a common misconception about either fitness or high rock, something a common myth that you hear people say that isn't necessarily true, or they have it wrong.
Specifically about HYROX, I would say that HYROX is for the elite athlete only. It's definitely not true. As I said, I am not in the elite category, but it's just something that I really enjoy. And I think it might even be on their website, or I've seen it in marketing before, but that HYROX is truly for everybody. Anybody can, with the proper amount of training and dedication, anybody can do HYROX. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. And I think just because a lot of the content that is on Instagram is of these elite athletes, of these like people who are running like 3.5 minute kilometers in their races, it doesn't mean that it's not for you. There are plenty of people, in fact it's probably the majority of the people who are doing running slower times, doing it at their own pace, but still crossing that finish line. So I'd say that's kind of like the one specific to HYROX that I would say. And I do think that kind of relates back to the Instagram account that I've created, and I think why even though I started it on a whim, why people seem to like it and to enjoy my content is because I am an everyday person, and you're not really seeing a lot of that on Instagram. It is a lot of the fitness trainers, a lot of the people who are super elite. I'm consuming this content, and I saw in one doubles race, someone's first kilometer was under 2 minutes, and I thought to myself, did they miss a lap? Like, are we sure?
Literally.
Lap? Like, that is like crazy times. But I guess the one piece of advice that I would say to people is, if you want to try it, just give it a shot. That, like, just because you're seeing that does not mean that you can't do it.
I love that. That's fantastic. All right, last question I have for you. Do you have a favorite quote or mantra or saying? Could be something that you use for your high rocks. Could be something that you've done for yourself for training, or just in general.
Yeah, so there's a quote from one of my favorite Peloton instructors. Her name is Robin Arzon. I've been taking her classes ever since I got my Peloton bike back in 2014. I'm like one of the OG Pelotoners. But it's "You're not done yet." And that kind of relates back to what I was saying about, like, don't count yourself out. Don't worry about your age. Don't think that you can't do it. Like, keep pushing, keep moving forward, keep improving, keep trying new things. And don't count yourself out of the race before you've even tried.
Love that. Well, mic drop with that. That's a great. Awesome. Well, Natalie, thank you so much. Tell people where to find you on Instagram.
Yeah, you can find me at Moms Who HYROX on Instagram.
Very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, ROX Life.
Yeah.
ROX Life. Signing
nice
off.
Speaking with you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, talk soon.
All right. So we'll hit stop.